What do Birmingham do?
Because it's horrendous.
Yeah, it is turning into an absolute nightmare.
Well, they're in a position really where they're looking nervously over their shoulder, I think.
Hello and welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks and I'm joined by the Joey Barton to my Warren Barton. It's Justin Peach.
Good day, dear Ryan.
Joey Barton's a penis. Who knew? I never saw it coming. Justin, how are you?
I'm all right. I've had a bit of a rough weekend, I won't lie. It's been a bit up and down. Yeah. Saturday night, I turned up to a gig that wasn't on. It was a birthday present for my other half, and yeah, I bought tickets for a absolute Bowie, David Bowie tribute band, and they weren't there. They weren't at the venue.
Well, they just didn't turn up, or there wasn't a gig at all?
There wasn't a gig at all. They were actually there on the Friday, the night before.
Ah.
Yeah. The worst thing about this story is my other half's friend, Josie, she was at the same gig the night before. And she messaged my other half and said, "This is really good. You should get tickets next time." I was like, "Oh, no, we've got tickets for the Saturday."
Yeah. Okay.
A problem.
So what did you do instead?
We went for food, and I apologised profusely for my incompetence because, let's be honest, I'm not the best organised.
No.
We know this. Listeners will know this.
You did think this podcast was starting, recording half an hour later than what we actually were. So you've messed up there as well. So you've not had a great weekend with timings, actually, have you? It's
not been the best, but I can say it's been a lot better than Joey Barton's. So there's swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. That's a fair point. The thing is with the Barton thing, and I don't want to open up this can of worms too much, but I feel like I have done now anyway. Whether you agree with him or not, up to you, I guess. But he went on Talk TV. I wasn't listening when he was chatting to Piers Morgan. I did tune in live. I never would. But he was saying that the only people who should talk about the game are people who have played at the highest level. But then in about 10 seconds later, he said, "Oh, but you've got great journalists like Mark Chapman, for example." And he's just completely contradicted himself. So I don't really get what the point is that he was trying to make.
And let's be honest, he's never played in the Derby Taverners League Division 1. That's a hard division to get into.
Yeah.
I have. He hasn't. So what does he know?
What does
Nothing.
he know?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. He's a failure.
Horrible little man. Welcome to the number one championship podcast, The Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to review another championship weekend. And what a weekend it has been. We've got managers under pressure, which we'll talk about very shortly. Plenty of drama and more wins for the top three, who just seem to win every single week, don't they? So we'll talk about all that, and then we'll do the polls near the end of the show, and then finish off with Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. Oh, also got our father-son combined 11 at the end as well, which I've profusely put together. I'm very excited to show it to the world. We'll kick things off with the fight to stay up, shall we, Justin? A 91st minute winner from Anthony Masaba saw Sheffield Wednesday beat Stoke 1-0. Ollie's 3-word review for Wednesday: "We're going up." Matt says, "Oh, it's on." And Lomas says, Danny Rule. Incredible scenes when that goal went in. I enjoyed the mixture of Wednesday fans cheering and celebrating the goal, and in the background you've just got booing from the Stoke fans. More on that shortly, but yeah, incredible scenes. And Wednesday are now off the bottom of the table after this. I'm not sure how that's happened. It felt like they were 10 points adrift of everyone else, like last week. But a cracking result for them, and back-to-back wins for the first time this season. Danny Rule has got the Owls on a roll, Justin.
I just knew you were going to bring it down a peg. The standards of this podcast are low already, and you find new ways. But they are on a roll. I nearly said it myself then.
Say it.
You've cursed me. They are on a roll. They're fantastic. I just wanted to highlight a couple of stats, actually. They had scored 5 goals before he came in.
You're just so emotional about it.
I know, I'm choking up. I'm literally choking up because he's changed my life, Danny Rule. But yeah, they scored 5 goals before he came in, conceded 18 in 11 games. That's an incredible number, and they hadn't won in the league as well. Since then, they played 9 games. They scored 8 goals and conceded 13. And whilst it might not look impressive, he switched it around. They're in games. They're threatening more consistently, and they look so much more confident in engaging opposition. Before, they were just sat back, waiting for other teams to score against him without any reaction. But now, there's a little bit more proactivity about them, and it's fantastic. And not only that, He's got the look of a teenager from 2012 who wears a V-neck T-shirt from Top Man. You know, the ones with different coloured trims on it.
Oh, yeah.
All the rage. Forever young, Danny Rode. Forever young.
Forever young, man. He is doing a remarkable job, isn't he? Because this had all the ingredients to be a pretty embarrassing season for Wednesday. He's now given the fans belief that whether they stay up or not, the club's got a good young manager in charge, and it's someone who's good for the club. I mean, things might be a dumpster fire off the pitch, but he's injected positivity into the club when there wasn't a lot to be found when he initially came in, was there? They're 8 points from safety still, so quite a long way to go. Not sure I'll be starting up the promotion talk just yet, Wednesday fans, but it's now looking like it's not completely outside of the realms of possibility that they might actually stay up, Justin.
Yeah, well, can I ask you a question then? Out of the managers who have replaced sacked managers so far this season, or managers who have left other clubs, is he doing the best job out of them? Because I create an argument to say he is, because of the circumstances he's fighting against and the position he took Sheffield Wednesday over. It's a really brilliant turnaround.
Yeah, I think it's probably between him and Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah.
QPR, but Danny Rule, I mean, so far there's still a long way to go, but if he keeps them up, then bloody hell, that is a ridiculous job. I
think even if he keeps them off the bottom of the table for the majority of the season, I think it's an incredible turnaround, because I'd have confidently said at one point, or at various points earlier on in the season, that they're going to set the record for the lowest points total in the Championship, which would have been embarrassing. But now he's restored pride, and now he's getting them in a position where they're looking even more competitive, and they might, have a good chance of staying up if they have a good January transfer window. It's about keeping within arm's length of those teams above them come January, and if you're in that position, who knows what can happen after that? It's an incredible turnaround.
Yeah, I still feel like Chansiri's got something in him to completely throw this whole season off the rails, but we'll wait and see. Speaking of which, the club somehow managed to score another PR own goal this week after setting an early bird deadline for people to buy season tickets for next season. That deadline was just before Christmas, the most expensive time of year for people.
It's usually around sort of April, isn't it? I've never renewed.
That's an extra early bird.
Yeah, and also it seems not exactly convincing anybody at the moment, or it is, I guess. I don't want to undo the praise I've just done for Danny Rule, but I'm not going to convince myself to renew right now if the team is in a position it's in. It's really bizarre. Yeah,
well, that decision from the club went down like a turd on Chris Waddle's head, so the club did a U-turn swiftly on that. But let's talk about Stoke, Justin, because it's that time of year where the Christmas songs are playing on the radio, advent calendars are being opened, Christmas parties up and down the country, and Stoke City are contemplating sacking their manager. Three-word review here from LH, just sack Alex. Scott says, sack Neil now. We had quite a few along those lines. You kind of get the idea from what Stoke fans are saying. 4 straight losses, 2 of those losses against teams in the bottom 3, by the way. And it feels like we're reaching the end of the Alex Neil era at Stoke, Justin.
Oh, yeah, visibly blowing out my cheeks at the thought of this statement and saga. Of course there's argument for him to go. He's not convinced me in his 15, 16 months in charge so far. But I've said several times while doing this podcast, the issues go way beyond the manager. For example, we were told by Stoke fans in the summer that they had one of the best summer transfer windows in the league. And yes, they made some good signings, but for me, all it did was highlight the disconnect between the team management and the decision-making upstairs. Ben Pearson and Daniel Johnson are very much Alex Neil signings, although Ben Pearson is a good signing at its level. It's very much an Alex Neil signing. Then you've got Andre Vidigal, Ryan Amai. They look like Jared Dublin was the head of recruitment at Stoke. It's just a mishmash of decision-making, and unfortunately, that lack of blueprint that's been developed at the football club, managers are going to continue to fail until someone takes charge, someone takes ownership of the decisions they've made so far and put a blueprint in place for them to succeed further down the line. We've seen it with Luton, Brentford, Brighton. It works. It's important to have one. If you don't have one, you're steering into nowhere, and Stoke are steering into nowhere, or they have been steering into nowhere. Now they're staring at the abyss at the moment. Yeah, they've crashed and staring at the League One abyss because that's where they're going.
Yeah, it's not looking good, is it? And I thought this might be a different season for them because brought in some new people behind the scenes, had quite an ambitious summer transfer window, but they're arguably at their lowest point since coming down to the Championship. And it feels like Alex Neil's been on the brink of the sack at Stoke now for essentially the whole of 2023. So it feels like it would only be fair, really, to continue that theme and then sack him on New Year's Eve. So when you've got the countdown to the new year, that's actually the countdown to Alex Neil finally being relieved of his duties. But it seems like he's on his last legs, doesn't it? I mean, is it the right thing to do, though? I honestly don't know, because Alex Neil is the latest in a long line of good managers who have gone to Stoke and struggled. It just feels like Stoke are cursed and are condemned to be in the bottom half of the Championship for the rest of time. And I'm not really sure what the answer is to get things back on track again, apart from having a blueprint. But I thought that blueprint may be here with these new people who they've brought in.
Do you know what I think they're doing? I might be right in saying, and it's worth double checking, that the Coates family were in charge when Tony Pulis originally took Stoke to the Premier League. And I think they're trying to sort of emulate that without doing much work themselves. And I know it sounds stupid because they invest a lot of money into the football club, but they're investing it without any real thought. And I guess Jared Dublin, the head of recruitment, is the man to come in and give them a lot more, I guess, structure in terms of who they sign and how they fit things into a playing style. But for me, it just feels like they're trying to do what they did in 2006, 2007, or sorry, 2007, 2008, trying to do that again, and it's just not working because guess what? Football's moved on. 15 years ago, it might have worked, but now you need a structure off the pitch and a blueprint to go forwards, and that's not there.
What you're saying is they need to get Pulis back in.
Well, they've tried everybody else, so why not?
It would be fucking brilliant if they got Tony Pulis in. Get Pulis in, get Shawcross, Ricardo Fuller, get the gang back together.
Oh my God.
I'd love to see
a coaching team.
Yeah.
A coaching team. Shawcross, Fuller. Bring Carlo Nash back. I don't even think he was number one. Rory Delap as well.
Oh, yeah. The boys. The big bad Stoke boys.
The boys are back in Stoke.
Yeah. QPR have won through on the bounce. It's after beating Hull 2-0. 3-word review from Up the R's. Statement of intent. And Lewis has actually reassessed what QPR stands for. He says, quite promising, really. And it's some turnarounds they're having, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the plaudits has to go to Asmir Begovic for this game. He was a very busy boy, made some impressive saves, but 3 wins on the bounce. I mean, that never looked like happened under Ainsworth, did it? And Cifuentes has actually now won more games in charge of QPR this season than Gareth Ainsworth, and he has got them flying, hasn't he?
Yeah, as I can't praise Cifuentes enough, and I think the big credit you've got to give QPR and Cifuentes here is this wasn't one of QPR's better performances in recent weeks because Hull had their chances, and as you say, Begovic had to make a number of really important saves, but that just highlights the turnaround at QPR because under Ainsworth, under Critchley, they would have lost that game. They'd have sunk without a trace within themselves and become a shadow of themselves. But they kept going, they kept plugging away, and Chris Willett grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck or by the ears and directed it in QPR's direction because they've got the quality of players to do that. And they built around the squad in doing that, or Cifuentes has, and I think that's where you got to give him credit because he's playing to the squad strengths which Critchley and Ainsworth struggled to do, and it's a big thing. It's a simple thing, and there's a lot of managers who are struggling now who need to basically copy and paste that style and run with it because you play to players' strengths, you're going to get results, and they are.
Helps, doesn't it?
And I think that's a big thing. The confidence is back, and the place is rocking, and we've not said that for a good 12 months now.
Yeah, it's a party. The Marty Party, isn't it?
The Marty Party.
That's what's going on at QPR. And the difference compared to when Ainsworth was in charge is absolutely huge. It's night and day, isn't it? I mean, the day being, right now because it's looking bright and happy, while it was the night before because of Ainsworth being a goth. But a good start for Cifuentes, and I think one of the key points of having this good start was actually playing Chris Willock because, I mean, really, Gareth Ainsworth should be charged with war crimes for not playing him. And then, getting Elias Chair back to his best is a big factor as well. But the big thing for me is how much better they are at the back. The underlying data shows they've dramatically improved there. Ultimately, we've always said QPR easily have the best squad out of the bottom 4, don't they? We've never said any different. They just needed a manager to get them playing, and that's what we're seeing. And they're now just 2 points from safety, Justin.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And again, it's just that turnaround. It's the confidence is back. The fans are back behind the players. There's no dread going back to Loftus Road anymore. It's so important to have that behind you going into games because, as I say, it just felt like Gareth Ainsworth's sides were just playing with fear. They were playing to not lose, to not concede, whereas it's a little bit more about this team. And then again, you've got the star quality in Chris Willock and Elias Chair. You get the ball into their feet, they're going to do something dazzling with it, and we've seen that countless times in the last few weeks under Cifuentes. It's a really simple formula, and as I say, getting that confidence back has been important, but having the fans back behind the team and winning while not playing particularly well is really good ingredients to getting out that bottom three, because there are a lot of teams that are down there at the moment that are struggling. Stoke and Millwall being dragged into it as well. QPR are giving themselves a fighting chance, and you've got to credit Cifuentes for that. Yeah,
and remember before how they had nearly gone, a whole year without a win at home? Now QPR fans are enjoying watching their side play at home for once. So, yeah, it's really good to see. And one thing I want to touch on with Hull, how long have they had McVitie's as a sponsor? I've only just noticed it, but it feels like a very 90s sponsor, doesn't it?
That's a big sponsor, though. It might not seem it, but we all enjoy a biscuit, we all enjoy a Jaffa cake. To have McVitie's as your club partner, I think, is quite incredible. Hopefully you get some exclusive discounts there, because
maybe,
we all enjoy.
I just thought, it's like in the 90s you used to have like Walkers or McDonald's as sponsors, didn't you? But now it's always, I don't know, a cryptocurrency company or a bookie or something like that. So for them to have McVitie's is quite nice. I quite enjoy it. Two managerless sides met at the New York Stadium as Rotherham lost 2-1 to Swansea. Rotherham were down to 10 men for more than 70 minutes after Daniel Ayala was given two very silly yellow cards on his behalf.
Brain-dead yellow cards. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was just, I don't even know what he was doing. It's one of the most stupid yellow cards you'll see all season. But they did battle well, did Rotherham. Victor Johansson made some incredible saves to keep them in it, but it was always going to be a struggle for the Millers being down to 10 men for that long. They were expected to name Liam Richardson as their new manager in the coming days, the former Wigan boss. Justin, you've said before that he would be your choice as their new boss. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I think it's more so the case now, the fact that they're fighting against the odds, because you've got QPR have turned around their form under Cifuentes. Wednesday are doing that now under Danny Rule. Huddersfield are beating the last four. Not inspiring, but they're still getting results on the board, whereas Rotherham haven't. And Richardson has got history in bringing those intangibles into a team. Should he be appointed, I think he would give them a fighting chance. You look at him coming in at Wigan. They survived administration. They didn't get relegated to League Two under him. They put together a new squad and walked to the League One title. And arguably, he definitely should have. For me, he should have retained his job at Wigan last season. I think they would have had a better chance of staying up rather than making some really poor decisions off the pitch, as we all well know. But yeah, for me, it gives them a fighting chance because the odds are against them here, and he's got a good core experienced squad to work with.
I'm less convinced. I think it's all right, but it's not particularly inspiring. I'm not having a go at Rotherham because it sounds like they tried to be ambitious. It sounds like they tried to go for a Gary Rowett, Chris Wilder, John Eustace, Nathan Jones, etc. Problem is they all said no, which is a bit of an issue. So it seems like, and I don't know this for sure, it's just based off what reports have said, but it seems like Liam Richardson is their 10th choice. And, I mean, ultimately, the bottom line is, do you feel like Rotherham are more likely to stay up after this appointment? Because not for me.
I don't think they're likely to stay up, but I think he gives them a better chance than Matt Taylor did, because I think firstly he's got that ability to inspire a group of players to perform well beyond their means. He did it with Wigan, so I think that's going to give them a chance.
Didn't do it in the Championship though, did he?
Well, no, but they weren't exactly in their best place. They should have recruited heavily in that summer, but they didn't have any money to. We know the problems they had.
Rotherham in the same position though, Justin, aren't they?
They are, but they've got a little bit more money to spend, if you like, and they've got better players for me to work with, and they've got more experienced players as well, like Sean Morrison. I think they're better set than what Wigan were. But that being said, I think it's made more difficult the fact they've taken so long to make this appointment that teams have now developed. Teams around them are now picking up in form. It's made it much more difficult now. I think he gives them a chance, but I don't think they're going to stay up by any means. But like I said, gives them the opportunity to.
I'm not sure. Swansea's first win in 6 always happens after a club sacks the manager, doesn't it? I would like to see a study, actually, of how often it is that a team wins their following match after sacking their manager, because it seems to happen a hell of a lot, particularly in the Championship. Justin, you wanted to raise an important point on caretaker boss Alan Sheehan.
Yeah, it's a really important one that we do need to talk about more often, I think. It's the fact that I think Alan Shearer's now the most handsome manager in the division. I think he is. For me, he's elevated to the top. He's got a fantastic hairline, great stubble, salt and pepper. Yeah, the greying look as well. Got lovely eyes.
More handsome than Russell Martin?
I think so. Russell Martin's had a haircut as well, which I'm not overly convinced by. I think it diminishes his handsomeness. But Alan Shearer, lovely eyes as well. Has that Irish accent. I think that works for him. Perfect suitor for many, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. It would have been interesting last season because obviously Rob Edwards just walked it with the most handsome manager in the division, didn't he? There wasn't a competition. It wasn't any competition to him. So with him gone now, I would have said Russell Martin. Maybe Sheehan. I think Martin just steals my heart slightly more than Sheehan does. Huddersfield won, Bristol City won. It's the fourth game in 6 where Huddersfield have drawn. They've drawn the most games out of any side in the division, which makes it quite difficult for us to form any sort of narrative about them, Justin. However, because all they do is draw, they're kind of just coasting along while you've got a reinvigorated QPR and Sheffield Wednesday showing a bit of life behind them, which isn't ideal, is it?
No, it's such a weird one, isn't it? It's, again, really hard to analyse because you can spin the positive that they're avoiding defeats, but it's 4 games unbeaten. It's a solid run of form. They don't have a great squad, but they are literally dragging themselves to January to really recruit. They're desperate for new recruits because they, out of the teams that are down there, I actually, on the basis of discussion now, I think Huddersfield had the weakest squad. I think Rotherham's is actually maybe a little bit stronger. I think QPR's definitely, blah, blah. We can go on about this for a while. I think Huddersfield is the weakest. And Darren Moore, I know there was booze at the end of the game, which I was really surprised by, but he's working with what he's got, and what he's got is not great. I don't think Warnock will have him in a much higher position either. So for them to still be chipping away at results, I think is quite admirable, to be honest with you. It might be an outlying opinion, but they need January. They're desperate for it.
Yeah. Huddersfield are the side I'm most intrigued to see what they do in January because they've got to strengthen, haven't they? And no team needs to strengthen more than them. The squad is just so weak. And really, it's quite an achievement in itself that they've managed to stay out of the bottom 3 for most of the season so far. But the way things are going, that probably won't last. You've got these new owners who have come in, and it's going to look like a crap investment on their behalf if they get relegated in their first year that they're there. So the owner, Kevin Nagel, needs to pull his wallet out and get signing in January because otherwise they're in big trouble. To be fair, I think they will. I think they're probably the side most likely to strengthen in January, but it needs to be a January that saves their season, basically, doesn't it? Because at the moment you've got 2 teams, as I say, who are picking up, and then Huddersfield is just doing this, drawing and drawing and drawing. 5 games in charge for Lee Manning now at Bristol City. 1 win, 2 draws, 2 defeats. A steady start, I guess, for him. On Friday night, Coventry made it 3 wins from 4 after beating Birmingham 2-0, piling the pressure on Wayne Rooney. We'll talk about that very shortly. Callum O'Hare scored both goals on just his second start back for Coventry after missing nearly a year with an ACL injury. 2 brilliantly taken goals too. How big is it having him back, Justin? It's like a new signing, isn't it?
It's a bloody cliche. It is like a new signing, and it's because he brings so much to the team in the way of attacking quality and composure in the final third. I'm absolutely buzzing for him because obviously he's been devastating and unlucky with his injuries. Everybody hates. Well, I hate seeing good players get injured. Probably implies that I like seeing the bad ones get injured, but we'll leave that there. But it's one of those questions where who knows where Coventry could have gone if O'Hare was fit for the entirety of last season, because he's got that ability to change a game. I think you only got to look at his second goal in this game to see how bloody good he is. His feet were fantastic. He misses 2 challenges. Commentators summarised that goal superbly by saying it was graceful, elegant, with a touch of violence. And I think you need that sort of player in there who's going to be able to take the ball on the turn and finish with devastating effect. And he brings that to this team because they needed it last season. They did need it. They performed admirably without it. But this season, he brings that spark in that final third that they've missed for a large portion of it.
Yeah, well, I hope this doesn't sound harsh, but I nearly forgot about it because he was out for just so long. But then he made his return a few weeks ago, and I was like, Oh yeah, that could be massive. And the game against Birmingham was a great example of what he offers, because his link-up play was excellent, but he can apparently now score 2. He's never been a prolific goal scorer, has he? But he took those 2 goals so well, and it's very exciting thinking about a Coventry side with a fully fit Callum O'Hare. As you say, last season could have been very different if he was there fully fit for the whole season. Because, I mean, this season they've been playing well despite results not going their way, and he makes them even better. So exciting times with O'Hare back in the fold. And I wanted to point out Tatsuhiro Sakamoto as well. It's just such a fun player, isn't he? He makes things happen for Coventry. And then Milan van Eckwijk is ridiculously quick. He makes other players look like they're running in sand. He is just absolutely rapid. But Coventry up to 15th with this win. Only 5 points off the top 6, which is quite remarkable considering they've been hovering above the bottom 3 all season. And I'm looking at it, Justin, thinking maybe playoffs?
Ooh. They hit form at this point last season, didn't they? Well, not this point last season because it's the World Cup break, but in a similar amount of games that they had left. They've got the potential to do it. They've got the squad depth to do it. It's just whether or not it's going to click at the same time. And obviously, if you get Callum O'Hare back to his best, if you get Hadji Wright confident in front of goal, and Ellis Sims confident in front of goal, then yes, there's a possibility of doing it. But there's some big hurdles to get over that they've not yet got over this season. So I'm not going to count my chickens just yet, but I've got one eye on it.
Yeah, there's no point in counting the chickens because, it's too early to be counting all your chickens this far. But I think all the ingredients are there. The squad is fantastic. You've got a great manager in Mark Robins, and the performances have been really good. It's just the results haven't been going very well because they can't find the bloody back of the net. And that's in large part down to the 3 strikers even, who have struggled so much. I mean, Hadji Wright, even though Coventry won, he missed so many chances against Birmingham on Friday night. And, I mean, that's just been a common theme with him all season. So I feel like if it clicks for him, then Coventry could be absolutely flying. I mean, or just Ellis Sims clicking either. Yeah. Anything like that. And Coventry may surprise everyone and show that they were in a false position all along, but just doing the same tactic as last season, having a shit start and then picking up halfway through. Unfortunately, that's not the case for Birmingham City. 1 win in 9 for them now. Matt's 3-word review. Bad, disastrous, tragic. Quite strong, but it also seems quite apt. Who'd have thought it would be a bad decision to sack your manager when he's got you in the playoffs? I don't think anyone saw this coming. As we all know, Birmingham infamously sacked Gary Rowett in 2016 and replaced him with Gianfranco Zola, which was a disaster. But even he won more points in his first 9 games in charge of Birmingham than Wayne Rooney has. In all seriousness, what do Birmingham do? Because they've gone from 5th down to 17th in a matter of weeks under Rooney.
Yeah, I think firstly you sack whoever made this decision. For starters, that's Gary Cook, because it's horrendous. And also you have a serious conversation about where Wayne Rooney's taking your team. Does he need more experience around him? Because I think Troy Deeney summarised it brilliantly in post-game. I give him a lot of stick, by the way, but I'll give him credit for this. The fact that Wayne Rooney has come in and tried to change things instantly is horrendous. When you've got a team in a good run of form and you try to change the way they're playing, what do you expect? What do you seriously expect from that? And I think at the moment you only got to look at Bielik's recovery runs, for example, that was pointed out post-game. They were a concern because that points to a notion of, am I playing for my manager? It didn't look like it. And I think the perfect summary of this game was Wayne Rooney post-game. His M's normally have an air of confidence about them in the transition, but they seemed very downcast. They had a really sobering tone to them.
Give us an example.
Sorry?
Give us an example.
So normally it's like a really scouts, really confident, really high pitch. After this game, it was very flat. It's more of a
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. That's a disaster.
He's in a bad place. So Birmingham.
Yeah, it is turning into an absolute nightmare, isn't it? And the thing is, if there were signs of them getting better, I'd perhaps give him the benefit of the doubt, but they are just playing so terribly. I don't get what the plan is. No fear football apparently means let's boot it up to Lukas Jutkiewicz. 35-year-old Lukas Jutkiewicz now? It's just so poor. But what do the owners do? Do they take it on the chin and sack him already?
That's it, isn't it? This is what I mean. You have to make a decision quickly, otherwise your season's going to fizzle out. And Birmingham have a real, well, they're in a position really where they're looking nervously over their shoulder, I think, because they've got the likes of QPR on Wednesday have picked up form. Huddersfield are chipping away. They're going to improve themselves in January. I'm worried about them under Wayne Rooney. I think if another manager comes in who, let's say John Eustace, for example, I'd be confident of him getting him into the top 10 because he knows the strengths of the squad and he can play to their strengths. Wayne Rooney can't, and if they go down the same route again post-Rooney, which I think is inevitable at this point because it's getting to the position where it's untenable because performances are dreadful. Lee Buchanan's form pre-Rooney was fantastic, post-Rooney dreadful, and that's a really good summary of where they are at the moment. The team's nowhere near its qualities.
Yeah, well, the club needs to decide what's more important to them, success on the pitch or PR, because they brought in Rooney as he's a bigger name than John Eustace. However, they're getting PR for all the wrong reasons now, and they've now won the fewest points in the division since Rooney came in, and it certainly would have not been this bad if Eustace was still in charge. And, you know, Rooney could sit there and blame the players and the media, but they weren't playing this badly under Eustace. This is a good team playing terribly, and there's very little sign of it getting better anytime soon. Let's take a break, Justin. After that, we'll go on to the promotion race. Welcome back to the Second Tier Podcast. Let's discuss the promotion race then, and we'll begin at the top. Leicester beat Plymouth 4-0. Hayden's three-word review. Third gear, finally, and a very comprehensive win for Enzo Maresca's men. I mean, Leicester were missing Jamie Vardy and Kelechi Iheanacho for this game, so it's always handy when you've got a spare £23 million striker in Patson Daka just lying around, milling around at the training ground, and you're like, oh, Patson, you fancy a game at the weekend? He'd only played 1 minute in the league this season, started this game and got a goal and an assist.
He's played more for Zambia this season than he has for Leicester.
That's
incredible, isn't it?
Good
it's
start.
Incredible, isn't it? But it just highlights the quality they've got in abundance with Daka waiting for his chance. They've got Iheanacho and Vardy, as you say. They've been chipping away at goals, but they've got Daka as well, who's incredibly. He's played 1 minute. I think that's an incredible number of minutes to play, despite costing so much just a couple of years ago. I wanted to point out as well, the front three had 102 touches between them, which is only 5 more than Yannick Vestergaard had at centre-back. It's just a devastating. They were just devastating, decisive every time, and for Daka to come in and be a part of that so seamlessly, I think is a good highlight of Enzo Maresca's coaching, because you've got a player there who hasn't played any football at all. You can't count a minute because he's not played any football at all, and he's come in and he's seamlessly fit in. I think that's a really good prospect for Leicester this season.
Well, you look at some of the players who have played in 5 games or fewer for Leicester this season. You've got Patson Daka, Dennis Pratt, Harry Souttar, Tom Cannon, Connor Cody. Those 5 players cost a total of £73 million, and they've all played fewer than 5 games this season. They've just been left down the back of the sofa and forgotten about. It's just an embarrassment of riches. But with Daka, his record at RB Salzburg over in Austria before he went to Leicester was ridiculous. He scored 51 goals in 59 games. So there's clearly a very good player in there, despite him struggling since moving to Leicester. But if they make him realise his potential, Leicester could have an absolute bagsman on their hands. Leicester continuing to have the best start in Championship history. No team has won more points after 20 games than them. Their next 3 games are all against teams in the bottom 8, so quite difficult to not see that trend continuing. They're going up, Justin, aren't they? I struggle to see a scenario where they don't at this stage.
It's hard to make a convincing argument against them. It's hard to make an argument against them. To be honest with you, it's I mean, other than the Leeds game, they haven't really been outplayed. It's in quote commas there for that statement, because despite losing to Borough and Hull, arguably in those games they should have come away with something, because they created chances at key times that they didn't take. So with those fine margins working against them, I think it just serves a reminder of how good they are and how they've been cooking or baking this season. And boy, is this cake going to be worth it at the end of the season, because they've got some lovely gears to go through yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? You're right. They haven't been outplayed at all, really, apart from that Leeds game, and they still haven't looked like they've got into third gear yet. And I suppose the Plymouth game was an example of them getting into third gear, but they've had their wobble and they've got past it. I think the question is more about whether they win the league, although even that seems quite likely. Maybe the question is more about how emphatically do they win the league. So
no. I think the question is more, when do you start talking about the points record?
Well, I mean, I have been thinking about that quite a lot recently, and at some stage we probably will do that, but considering we're not even halfway through the season, maybe we'll just hold off from that for now. But they're just ridiculously strong. Got a classy manager who understandably had a few doubters when he came in, but has shown he's the real deal and he's getting the best out of this very talented group. Some 3-word reviews from Plymouth fans. Can't win away. And Cologne says that was from Cologne, sorry. Callum says it was expected. Ipswich are still second after beating Middlesbrough 2-0. Some 3-word reviews for you here. James says clean sheet, mad. And Reese says fueling the tractor. Quite a comfortable one for Ipswich in the end. As mentioned in our last couple of episodes, Borough have been absolutely blighted with injuries, so perhaps not too much of a surprise that Ipswich got a win here. Let's not take anything away from them though, because Ipswich have struggled on the road recently, so a good way of correcting that. Also, their first clean sheet in 9 games, and that's been a particular bugbear with you, hasn't it, Justin? You picky man. Connor Chaplin got a goal and an assist, and he's someone we haven't mentioned too much, actually, isn't he? But he's been one of the stars of Ipswich's success this season. Very much a team effort down there, but Chaplin has certainly stood out, hasn't he?
Well, he's got 8 goals for the season. I want to point out the fact that I was sceptical of him being a regular goal scorer at this level, and I'll eat my words here because he's been absolutely fantastic. He was obviously fantastic in League One last season, but his ability to just float in and around George Hurst, pick up the scraps and just fire in the back of the net, it's probably doing him a disservice, but he's so good at just finding that space to be able to create a shooting opportunity for himself, and it takes an intelligent player who's had to mature quite a lot over the last couple of years to do that, and he's taken to the Championship brilliantly this season. He's a key player for Ipswich, and he's a big reason as to why they're the top scorers in the league this season, or one of the top scorers in the league this season.
Yeah, well, he's just classy, isn't he? Such a classy player, joy to watch, and he's like the Portsmouth Bernardo Silva, because he's just the ideal number 10 at this level. He can score all types of goals, can play that killer ball, loves to run at defenders. I mean, you watch him this season and you think, why was this guy playing in League One last season? Because he's clearly got so much technical ability and just gives Ipswich an X factor in that final third. A lovely, lovely player. Alex has 3-word review for Borough. January window needed. Yes, very correct. So Ipswich stay second, a point behind Leicester. 7 points behind Ipswich is Leeds United, who kept the pressure on the top two with a 2-0 win away at Blackburn. Alistair's 3-word review. Away win finally. And Leeds not at their best, but we've bemoaned them when they haven't played well and struggled to scrape a win. So this was a step in the right direction in that respect. A clean sheet as well. Only their second clean sheet in 10 games. And a man who needs highlighting, Justin, is Joe Rodon at the back, who's been phenomenal over the past few games. The Leeds have been a bit leaky at times, but he has been excellent despite that.
Well, we had a few Leeds fans give us feedback on who they thought their best signing was in the summer, and obviously I think we pointed the finger towards Ethan Ampadu, and he's been fantastic this season. But a lot have pointed out Joe Rodon, who's been superb. I think he's the ideal Daniel Farke defender as well, because he's a good defender, and it's quite easy to forget about him as well, because obviously he spent a couple of years behind the scenes at Spurs, not really getting a game, and I think he had a loan spell at Nice last season as well. Yeah, so he had his loan spell at Nice, where he obviously clearly didn't set the world alight. So he's needed to come in and reset, and he's done it brilliantly. And as I say, he's a perfect Daniel Farke defender because he's comfortable with the ball at his feet, and he's a solid defender. He's shown that in Swansea sides in previous years. He's got a lot of potential to go through as well. So yeah, really impressive of him. And obviously the clean sheet is massive. And I think if they're going to carry on their form, they're going to need a strong backline, a strong consistent backline, and Joe Rodon's a part of that.
Yeah, well, you're spot on. And when you think of Daniel Farke centre backs, Joe Rodon fits the bill, doesn't he? He gives Leeds so much composure at the back and has produced some massive blocks and tackles this season. He's just really shone at the heart of that Leeds defence. And Pascal Struijk, his centre back partner, has been a bit shaky at times, so it helps having someone as solid and consistent as Rodon. And he is that. He is Mr. Consistent. Yeah. Also a very good looking man.
Oh. I've not actually viewed him in that sense. I've been too distracted by Alan Sheeran this weekend. I've not really focused on Joe Rodon. Yeah, he's got those tattoos, hasn't he? He's got sleeves, hasn't he? Which adds to that.
I just think he's a bit rugby player-esque. You know, if he popped up and he's playing rugby for Wales, then I'd be like, yeah, fine, looks like a rugby player. But it kind of adds to the magic of it all when he's just this classy centre back.
don't expect it. You don't expect it, I think. But fair play to him. He's a good looker. Not common for a defender. Pascal Strike as well. He's a good looking fella.
Yeah. Leeds have got the most handsome defence in the division.
Yeah.
Well, centre-back pairing anyway. We'll ignore everyone else. But, yeah, we'll give them that for sure. A shout-out for Dan James, by the way. 6 goals in 7 games. Brilliant form for him. A 3-word review here from James, who is a Blackburn fan. Not enough quality. That's fair. Have had a few injuries, to be fair, Blackburn, haven't they? Southampton dropped points for just the 4th time in 12 games after drawing 1-1 away at Watford. A 3-word review here from Stones. Kill the game. He said that in capitals, so, he really meant it. They conceded an equaliser in the 95th minute after a clanger from Gavin Bazunu in goal. He actually had a really good game up until that point, but he does have a mistake in him, unfortunately, doesn't he? Southampton have been in great form recently, unbeaten in 12, but it kind of feels like they're missing something compared to the top 3, doesn't it? It feels like they're quite a way off from, everyone else in the division, better than all of them, but it feels like the top 3 are just they've got more about them than Southampton have. So I feel like they're kind of destined to finish 4th this season, Justin.
It's a good point to make, because I put this in my notes, that it just feels like they lack a natural creator / number 10, if you like, in their lineup to edge these tight games. Now, I know they've got an abundance of technical quality in the final third, but I'm talking about a player who thrives in the sort of in between. Just outside the edge of the box. Callum O'Hare would be the perfect sort of option, or perfect kind of player I would look to signing in terms of profile. It's just that guy who can take the ball on the half turn, or take the ball with his back to goal, and find a more incisive pass, especially because teams are going to defend deep against Southampton.
Is that not Carlos Alcaraz, Justin?
I don't think he's that type of player. I don't think he's the type of player who, like Callum O'Hare, can just take the ball, drive in those tight areas and pick those passes. It just doesn't feel like he's really got that, unless he has got it and we just haven't seen it yet. But I think that's what they're missing, to turn those tight draws into wins. It's just those really fine margins that they're missing out on, and maybe that type of player can come in and address that.
Well, perhaps one of the reasons why they don't stand out as much as the top 3 is because their wins tend to be quite close, don't they? When I sit down to watch Leeds, they're absolutely ruthless. Sure, they have the odd game where they're a bit off it, but when they're good, they are brilliant. And Southampton seem to just edge games, which is fine. And in a normal season, they probably would be closer to second. But this season, the standards of the top 3 are just so high that I find it increasingly difficult to see Southampton getting automatic promotion, because the top 3 just have so much more about them.
It's a fair point to make, and I think it's just a case of, had Southampton not stumbled as hard as they did and been as unconvincing as they did, maybe the confidence would have been developed early on to really kick on.
I'm not sure, Justin. I'm looking at their recent form. That this unbeaten 12-game run, fantastic, but I haven't looked at them too much in that time and thought, bloody hell, they're good.
Again, that's a fair point, but it is my point I was going to make was it's building that confidence from an early stage and really backing yourself. And I don't think Southampton had that. And obviously it might be filtering into now. And I know they've had a couple of injuries as well, and obviously sold a lot of players like Nathan Teller, who might have made a significant difference. Shea Adams scored his first goal since August in this game. There's just a lot of players there who haven't looked anywhere near their best, and I think that's the key thing. Whereas Leeds, Somerville, and Purdue, players have looked in top draw, top quality, and I just think Southampton haven't had that yet.
Sunderland won their first game since sacking Tony Mowbray by beating West Brom 2-1. What I was saying earlier about wins after a sacking, there's something to it, I'm telling you, particularly in the Championship. Sunderland had a perfectly good goal ruled out for offside and a clear penalty turned down, so justice done, I suppose, in that respect. Why are you pulling that face, Justin?
A clear penalty?
Yeah, the Patrick Roberts one.
No, Ryan.
Are you being serious? Did you see the replay?
He initiates contact. I'm surprised you've not mentioned a Dan Ballard red card, because that was a Stonewall red for me. That was an awful tackle on Josh Madger.
I thought the penalty was a clear penalty, though. But it didn't matter, did it? They still bloody won. Justin, I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of Dan Neil. What a player he is. He took his goal so well. I love that little dink, and it was a great pass by Alex Pritchard too. But Neil, he is just a baller, isn't he?
he's a fantastic player, and again, we're probably going to keep praising him throughout the season. But I think it's the players around him allow him to build. But if you compare him to this time last season, it's one of those scenarios where he probably wasn't at his best last season, but he's really, really matured this season and taken on that role of I guess being the responsible one for that midfield, and taking on that role really, really well. And I think that another thing here is West Brom was such a difficult side to break down, but Dan Neil's passing again allowed Sunderland to really take onus on this game on several occasions. I think Pritchard coming on really helped as well, because he had that passing avenue to get the ball into and break West Brom down or ask more questions of them. But yeah, he's a fantastic player who's got a big future ahead of him. We know that.
Oh, definitely. He's really developing into the perfect all-round championship midfielder, isn't he? He's completed more progressive passes than any other player in the division, but he's also running with the ball a lot more this season, so he just gives you everything you need. He's having a really productive season. It's easy to forget he is only 22, and you're right, last season he got a bit of stick, particularly towards the end of it, for not playing perhaps as well as people ever expected, but this season he really has been one of the best centre midfielders in the division for my money. He is a serious player. Lee's 3-word review for West Brom: too many injuries. Another side who have certainly felt the wrath of the treatment room recently.
Busy schedule.
I don't know where I was going with that. Cardiff got just their second win in 6 games by beating Millwall 1-0. Luca's 3-word review: done the job. Andrew says ground it out. It's been an interesting start for Joe Edwards at Millwall, hasn't it? He's maybe not had the instant effect that people were expecting. Obviously, they had that 4-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday, but since then, no win in 4.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and this was a really ugly game as well, and I expected it to go that way, but I did expect a little bit more quality from Millwall because they've invested quite a lot of money in the summer, and we're just not seeing the fruits of that. But yeah, it has been a poor start. If I was to be sceptical, it's something that I expect from a Frank Lampard trustee. But I'm willing to afford him a little bit more time.
Any chance to dig it, I don't know, twist the knife when it comes to Frank Lampard, because you're still bitter about the 2019 Championship playoff final, and still always will be. With Edwards, I mean, it's a shame, because I look at this Millwall squad and I think it's a bloody talented squad. It shouldn't definitely not be as low in the table as they are. And I think it was going to take time, because they went from Gary Rowett, who was Rowett ball, and they've now got Joe Edwards in, who wants to play the ball around a bit more. So I think there was always going to be that transition. However, it has been a bit, I was going to say it's just been a slow start, but it's been a bit more than a slow start, really. It's been actually quite poor. So maybe it's just teething issues, Justin. I don't know, but I was certainly expecting a bit more than what we've seen so far, I think.
No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point, because that's just what I mean. That 4-0 winning at Sheffield Wednesday in his first game probably lulled people into a bit of a false expectation, because following games have been poor. Bit of a pick-up against Sunderland, but this was a little bit back to the normal. And this will be an interesting period of games, next few games, because he needs to pick them up before this Christmas period.
Yeah, and final game of the weekend was Norwich 0, Preston 0. Two managers under a bit of pressure, because it's not been going too well for either recently, but I think they'll both be all right with this result. Let's do the polls, Justin. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter, because we want to get their thoughts on everything to do with the Championship. So the first question I asked was this. Where are the polls? Here they are. If you were a Premier League club, which of these managers would you appoint? Daniel Farke, Enzo Maresca, Kieran McKenna?
Oh, it's going to be tight between Maresca and McKenna. I'll edge towards McKenna, though.
I'm surprised. I thought you'd say Daniel Farke.
Well, no, because I like... It's a bit contradictory, I guess. I like Farke, but he's not got a great track record, and why not give it someone fresh like McKenna?
He's got an appalling record in the Premier League, Justin, hasn't he? Let's not beat around the bush here. It's absolutely terrible. But yes, Kieran McKenna got 60% of the votes, 22% for Enzo Maresca, 18% for Daniel Farke. I thought Maresca might get a bit more. I feel like he's been a bit hard done to.
Bloody hell, that's a big significant swing towards McKenna there. It's incredible.
I thought McKenna would win it, but I thought Maresca might get a bit more. Maybe that says something about him being underrated as a manager. People are just looking at the Leicester team and going, "Yep, it's a ridiculously talented squad. Should be winning the league." I don't know. Maybe something to discuss at a later date. Finally, next question is this: what should Birmingham do with Wayne Rooney? Give him more time or sack him?
Oh, just sack him. Put him out of his misery. Get his arms back, for goodness sake.
Just sack Pat.
Gianfranco Rooney.
72% of people said sack him. 28% said give him time. And finally, Yorkshire pudding on a Christmas dinner. Yes or no?
Of course. Are you a heathen? You've got to say yes.
All right, I'm yes as well. I was just putting it out there because I know it's quite a controversial subject for people. Justin, 80% of people said yes, 20% said no. What's something you don't have at a Christmas dinner, which you might have on a roast dinner?
Nothing. Christmas dinner is just a roast dinner, but with cranberry sauce and turkey.
Yeah. You're not
That's
wrong.
it. Yeah, there's nothing special about a Christmas dinner other than your family's getting stressed over the timings. That's it.
And having to talk about politics with your uncle who you don't see very often. You like Christmas pudding?
No, not a Christmas pudding guy.
No, neither am I. Overrated. Now it's time for this.
Hi, Simon Grayson here.
Yes, it's time for Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. So Justin is going to ask me to name 8 of a certain subject. All I've got to do is name all 8. So, for example, if he would say name Steve Bruce's last 8 clubs, and I would say Villa, that's 1 down. And then Newcastle, that's another down. But if I would say Weymouth, I would lose a life. So all I need to do is give all 8 answers without losing all my lives. And you can get involved in the fun by sending in your Hateful Eights for either Justin and I to read out. Send them in to secondtierpod@gmail.com and you could get a shout out the next time we do a Hateful Eight. Alternatively, just play along at home and let us know how many you've got. We have got quite a few Hateful Eights, so I apologise if it takes us a while to get round to yours, but we will try and do that slowly but surely. Who's this Hateful Eight from, Justin?
It's from Gareth. I didn't get a last name, but he emailed in with his Simon Grayson. He wants you to name the 8 most expensive summer transfers, or the 8 most expensive transfers that took place over the summer. I have basis off Transfer Market. If it's good enough for Mel Morris and valuing his Derby squad, then it's good enough for me. I tried to look through local media valuations. It's quite difficult. So as I say, most expensive signings from this summer. And I'm going to give you 2 lies because I actually think it's quite easy.
Okay then. Well, I'll start off with the man who is in his mid-20s but actually looks like a teenager, Harry Winks.
You are correct. 9.4 million. He's 3rd on this list.
He's 3rd? I thought
He's
he
3rd.
might be top. Well, I think Leicester are going to be quite high. A lot of Leicester players are going to be quite high in this. I'll throw in Connor Cody.
Yep, he's 7th on this list, so he's a little bit further down.
Okay. That's surprising. Well, Shea Charles at Southampton, he cost a fair bit.
I didn't think you'd get him, but he's 2nd. He's 2nd.
Yeah. I only just remembered him because I literally looked at the Southampton team about 5 seconds ago. Which of the Coventry strikers might be in there? I can't remember which one costs more. I'll go Haji Wright.
You're spot on with that one. He is... Oh, God, I've got to look hard on this list. I think he's 5th.
5th?
And you've got... Yeah.
I'm not sure if Ellis Sims will be on there then. I'll throw in Tom Cannon at Leicester.
I didn't think you'd get him either, but he's 6th.
He's 6th.
Yeah, you've got... Let me just double check. You've got 1, 2... You've got 3 left.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, well, Ipswich didn't sign anyone, did they, really? Well, didn't spend that much money, rather.
Signed Jack Taylor.
Sorry?
They signed Jack Taylor.
Yeah, he wasn't that much, though. Who did Leeds sign? Joel Pirro?
He's top.
He's top, is he? How much was
He's
he?
top. He's down as 12.2 million. I had to convert it from euros as well. Very annoying.
Yeah. Did Leeds sign anyone else? Ethan Ampadu?
You are correct.
Ooh.
You are correct. He's 8th.
So I've got 1 left, have I? Which number is that?
Got 1 left, and it's the 4th one on the list.
So that's a fair bit.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who cost about 10 million. I mean, I'll throw in Ellis Sims, but I don't think he costs that much.
It's your first life lost.
Yeah.
I think the Ellis Sims one, obviously, initial fee is about 3 million. So he's quite low.
I'm not too sure on what this last one is. I feel like I'm going to be kicking myself when you do read it out to me. I'm going to go to Southampton because I haven't touched on them too much, and I'll throw your way. Actually, I can't think of anyone. They didn't really. They spent a load of money on Shea Charles, but I can't think of anyone else they signed.
Did they not sign anybody else? Bloody hell!
Is it Southampton?
I'm not telling you. I'm not giving you a clue.
Well, your face,
this is Simon Grayson.
Your face is telling me it's Southampton.
My face is telling me I've got a heavy cold. Can you get a move on, please?
Sorry. I think I'm going to have to tap out, Justin, which is quite annoying.
You've got one guess left. Just guess.
I know.
Just guess. Just throw a name. It's not Matt Letizia. Or is it?
Bellis, but I don't think they signed him permanently, did they?
It's not Taylor Harwood-Bellis. No. It's Ross Stewart.
Oh, bollocks.
The Loch Ness Drogba.
I mean, he's easy to forget because he's just disappeared off the face of the earth, hasn't he? 'Cause he's still injured.
He's still injured, but he will still get the Golden Boot this season.
He's still holding on to that, are you, Justin?
I have to.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's been Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. And we'll finish off, ladies and gentlemen, with the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the father-son Championship 11. I'm wary time is running out on this episode, but I'm willing to extend it for this section. It's mainly made up of players whose dad used to play in the Championship. I've had to bend the rules in some cases. Thank you to everyone who's helped put it together. We've been talking about it over the last couple of episodes, haven't we? Yeah. But we've finally got a complete 11. So, in goal, we've got Angus Gunn, son of Brian. Darnell Furlong at right back.
That's a good one.
Son of Paul. I like that one. Charlie Cresswell and James Hill at centre back. Sons of Richard and Matt. Jacob Greaves at left back, son of Mark. Tom Ince on the right wing. I don't think I need to explain who his dad is. Martin Strike got in touch with Archie Gray in centre midfield, son of Andy.
Believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe we forgot that one.
Third generation footballer.
Yeah, he fits into a grandson 11 as well, doesn't he? Josh Windass can go in midfield as well. I don't think I need to explain that one, who his dad is. Tyrese Campbell on the left wing, son of Kevin Campbell, of course. And then Liam Delap up front alongside Bailey Cadamartri. And then I've even gone as far to pick a manager, Justin. I've gone Nigel Clough as manager. Got quite a decent bench as well. Byron messaged us to suggest Ethan Ampadu. He's the son of a former Swansea midfielder, Kwame, although he's been brutally left out of this side. George on Twitter suggested Andre Dazelle, son of Ipswich midfielder Jason, former Ipswich midfielder. Could have also had Dimaggio Wright Phillips, George Hurst, Ollie Cooper, Leo Helder, all former football playing dads with varying degrees of fame. What do you think of that, Justin?
I think this is the best thing we've done on this podcast.
Wow. That's saying
I really do. That's incredible.
Shit, this podcast is.
Yeah, there's that. But also, who else has done this?
Nobody. Pathetic. Everyone else is a fraud. Thank you for listening to the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday because we've got midweek games in the Championship, baby. So we will be back again to talk about all of them on Thursday. We look forward to seeing you then. If you wouldn't mind giving us a 5-star review, helps us grow as a podcast. And as I said the other day, if you give us a 5-star review, we'll stop asking you to do it. And I think that's a pretty fair deal. Only takes a few seconds of your time. Leave a review as well. We might read you out in the near future. I don't know. Maybe. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.